Good evening, everyone. As expected, there is a number of public in attendance who, are welcome. I'd like to just be clear that whilst the public are here, they are only here to observe. They are not allowed to speak. The procedures under our constitution have provision to remove anybody who disturbs the conduct of this meeting. So I will provide one warning, and if the disturbance continues, I will use my powers to remove those individuals. But I'm absolutely hoping this will not be necessary. Do we have any apologies?
Through your chair, we have apologies this evening from Councillor Hannaland.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest? Yes, Councilor Owen.
Yes, I came in tonight to find my name had been removed from sitting on this committee. I was told, well, it was because you said that you got predetermined interests at the last meeting. Now, I have to admit, I don't remember saying that. I am over 40 now, but I do not have predetermined views. I have to say, I don't swim. I don't go to the leisure centre. I am here solely to represent residents.
Okay, thank you. Yes, question.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. I think just for the record, if I could just ask that what you're saying is that you have not come with a predetermination and that are you confirming that you've come with an open mind to hear all the representations?
I don't have any interest in swimming or exercise. I haven't got time.
Yeah, so you've come with an open mind to hear all the representations before coming to your decision.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, following the adjournment of the previous meeting, the report has been released to allow consideration of the call-in open session. I will proceed to set out on page 5 of the agenda. In line with the Constitution, members will be allowed five minutes to speak. Let's begin with the members who asked for the decision to be called in. Councillor Philip Owen, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. This call-in has been made by the members of the Conservative group for the simple reason that we were not prepared to let a decision of this importance and significance go through in secret just before Christmas, when everybody else's attention was taken, no doubt, with Christmas preparations. It would have meant that there could have been no opposition expressed. Indeed, there's been a deafening silence from the Kimberley Borough councillors themselves on this matter, even though the report to close it was presented in the name of one of them. What the call-in will achieve, if nothing else, is the fact that there was no need for secrecy. No need at all, because now that pressure has been applied, the vast majority of the report is being shared publicly. And that is important. It is quite wrong to keep residents in the dark. And this call-in has achieved the fact that they won't be kept in the dark as much as they would have been. However, I have to say, the decision to call in should have immediately stopped any confirmation of the resolution to close Kimberley Leisure Centre that was taken at that 5th of December cabinet meeting. But I note and I'm advised that that hasn't been the case. The council has proceeded to issue redundancy notices rather than stop the process in its tracks, which is what a call-in should do. So that, I think, tells you something. We've just been talking about predetermination. I think that tells you something about predetermination. Now, we decided to call it in for several reasons. First of all, the equality impact assessment, which I don't think is included in tonight's documents, but was in fact present in the cabinet documents, is not complete. It wasn't complete, it's inadequate. And I quote on page 16 of the report, of the equality impact assessment. Assessing the qualitative data for the above areas will need more detailed analysis, yet a decision was being made without a detailed analysis of relevant data. Staff consultation is currently taking place. There will be a meeting with the swimming club and communication with customers on the potential impacts of closure. All that should have taken place before there was any decision to close the centre. And lastly, on the equality impact that I just point out, a more detailed stakeholder impact analysis would provide more insight on the impact of equality. What's the point of producing an equality impact assessment to close a leisure centre when you haven't got the impact analysis? It really is utter nonsense. Also, we have called it in because of the lack of consultation with residents and users. I've had a 3-page letter from one of the principal users, the Kimberley Swimming Club, who unfortunately are not allowed to address this meeting. I don't know why not. If you talk about consultation, what better way to consult than to ask them to speak? And you limit me to a very small amount of time in order to present the arguments. That's what we're up against all the time. And it's a great pity members of, I don't know whether it's been circulated to all members of this committee. I don't suppose it has, but I haven't got time to read that out. I've also had a letter from the Hammer Medical Centre in Kimberley saying that closure would have a detrimental impact.
Mr. Owen, you've got 30 seconds left.
I've got 30 seconds and I've only just started. You see how democracy prevails in this council. This is what it's all about. This is democracy. There are, and we have also called it in because of the lack of alternative strategies. There is money available. The Kimberley Levelling Up Fund has got money, 16.5 million. The schemes that are in there are not going ahead. The money could be redirected. The 2.4 million could be redirected. I'm sorry, I'm trying to present your case, but you can see what we're up against. That's democracy in action in this council. Quite improper. Quite improper. They'll throw me out if I don't shut up.
Councillor Bull, would you like to have your 5 minutes?
Yeah, I certainly would, thank you. Yeah, I'm really pleased that this has been called in. For people that don't know me, I represent Orsworth, Castle and Trowell, and there was a lot of rumours going around that the swimming pool, the leisure centre was to be closed, which I couldn't believe actually, because Kimberley Leisure Centre is part of the community. It makes Kimberley what it is, and I do hope Kimberley councillors will support the not closing of the swimming pool and the things that it's done for the children. It's the children that are going to miss out. I have to say to you, I had 4 children and they all learnt to swim at Kimberley Leisure Centre, and they've always been parts of the swimming club. And as Philip tried to say, we are bombarded on the TV and radio about the health and well-being of this nation, and it starts with children, and that's where we should be. You should be supporting them. You should be supporting this swimming club because they do such fantastic jobs. I also remember years ago taking one of my grandsons to the tumbles that they did at Kimberley Leisure Centre. That was fantastic. And I think to even consider not supporting Kimberley Leisure Centre is a travesty. And you're letting people down, not just in Kimberley, the whole community. As I say, I represent Orsworth and Castle, and I do know of 3, actually 4 now, of the residents that live in Orsworth that are teachers at the swimming club, that run that swimming club and have done for years and years. And other people that were in that swimming club, their children and grandchildren are all part of it. It's the heart of Kimberley, it's the heart of the north of the borough. And once you've got rid of it, there will be nothing in Kimberley, and I hope that the Kimberley members will come on and stick up for them and provide for your residents, because that's what you've been elected for, to take care of local people, to make sure that they're fit and healthy, and that is the way you start, from the very youngest. So I'm really, really quite sad, horrified. It's terrible. And I just hope we get some more support for them. You know, look at yourselves and think, yeah, we should be doing this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. As Councillor Pringle's not here, we'll move on to Councillor Graham Hills.
Thank you, Chairman. I've just been given a document that is 12, 13, 14 pages long, but I haven't had a chance to read at this stage. I don't know if it would be possible for us to have a 10-minute break just for those who haven't read it to complete reading it.
I think it'd be worth checking if anybody else hasn't, but I'll have it for the adjournment. Has anybody else received this?
I think if I can just clarify, is it that you've, as a member, been shared the redacted, the non-redacted document,
Yes.
and that's what you'd like time to consider? Has everybody else had the full papers, the unredacted version? Yeah. So yes, I mean it is Councillor Hill that hadn't received it, but within your discretion to allow the adjournment.
Yeah, we'll adjourn for 10 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Just to let you all know that we have 2 minutes before we start again. Thank you, councillors. Ladies and gentlemen, we will shortly be reconvening the meeting.
The monitoring officer has just been around to remind the committee members of the code of conduct. I will also take this opportunity to remind the members of the council to treat each other with respect and to abide by the code of conduct which you all signed up to. Councillor Hills, are you ready to continue?
I am. Thank you very much for the time.
You're welcome.
On page 7, the detail is that the head teacher at Kimberley
Can you
School-
pop your microphone on for me, please?
Is that right?
That's
There we
lovely,
are.
thank
I
you.
apologise. Page 7 shows what's happened in terms of the relationship between the school and the council. It says the head teacher at Kimberley School has written to the council outlining the significant financial loss of the school over last year in running the swimming pool, and if no financial support can be secured, the risk of the leisure centre closing on the 31st of March 2024. The school is requesting significant financial report, and the given there, the impression there, is that the school wishes some of these outcomes to occur unless something can be done to sort it out and to provide a middle way between the two ways of looking at what is effectively this redundancy and very sad situation. Now, if I actually look at the head teacher's letter, Andy Park, on the 19th of September, some little while before these documents were put together, it's a very carefully stated letter. It's not a hysterical letter. It doesn't say this is a disaster and that we can't carry on at all after the dates that I've given you. What he says is, thank you for your time.
when we met to review the licence to occupy. As we explained, the present arrangements have resulted in a significant financial loss for the school over the last year, which is unsustainable, and if permitted to continue, will place the school in a deficit situation. As such, I wish to give notice that the school is likely to terminate the licence in March 2024. But we want to give the council an opportunity to explore the possibility. Now, between 19th of September and I think 5th of December, it's very difficult to see what discussions have taken place, if any, between the two parties, but it's too strong, in my view, for the Cabinet to take at this stage, to resolve that funding of 444,538 is inevitable and it must be rejected, when the head teacher is taking a very soft line and trying to explain what the difficulties are with the school, but it doesn't give the impression that this is absolutely necessary and inevitable, which the document from the council appears to show, or appears to suggest that it is. So it seems to me that if more time was given, perhaps during this period of time, other situations and other sources of finance or other ways of dealing with the school and the swimming pool in particular, and had more time been given, it may be that arguments would have been different. More time would have been spent with the council, and we wouldn't necessarily have this situation where very large figures are being given to the school, which are really saying to the school, we can't help you. There must, in my view, have been some way of looking at this, because the swimming pool in particular is unique to Kimberley. There are others in the county, but there's nothing that's going to help with this particular school in Kimberley. It's a shame, really, that this has come so quickly to Cabinet and to produce these documents, when more time, I suspect, could have been used with value to look at this in a different way, because it's not just the pool, it's the rest of the facilities at the school that are under attack and at risk to the people who need them the most, which is the pupils in the school. So those are my comments, and I just wish that more time had been spent, and that the documents that we have here could have come to a different conclusion.
Thank you. I would just like to confirm that all members were actually sent the form before this meeting. I appreciate that you weren't, which is why I allowed the adjournment to.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Through you, Chair. If I can just clarify, I think the update, just for the record, was that all members were sent an unredacted version of these papers. However, we appreciate Councillor Hill has stated that he hadn't seen his version, hence that was the reason for the adjournment. But all members were sent an unredacted version. Thank you.
Councillor McBrown, would you like to have your say? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to ward members. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to refute what Councillor Owen said earlier, the fact that Kimberley Borough Councillors have done nothing. I refute that, so my statement might explain things. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I've lived in Kimberley and around Kimberley for nearly 40 years now, and as a Kimberley councillor, I, along with the residents I represent, am saddened that the swimming pool is in danger of closing. The presence of local residents here tonight and at this meeting proves the depth of feeling at this impending decision, and I share their frustration. I'd be heartless if I didn't. Health and well-being is so important to foster a healthy community, and this is highlighted by the communication we receive from a Kimberley GP practice. However, it must be stressed here that, ironically, provision of leisure facilities is not a statutory requirement for local authorities. I state ironically, as it's the government that places so much emphasis on health and well-being. so perhaps it should be a statutory requirement. When I and my fellow borough councillors were elected last year, our first visit was to the school as a major employer, where we met with the headmaster. Councillor Carr, as an ex-pupil and who spent many a session in the pool, stressed that the three of us would offer all the support we could. The head outlined and detailed the school's financial outlook, which was challenging to say the least. Massive increases in utility bills alongside chemicals and other essentials for the upkeep of the pool were highlighted. As a consequence of our meeting, we reported back to Broxtowe Council, which led to an application for a Sport England grant, which was successful, just over £46,000. However, when the council were faced with the figures presented by the school, which are now in the public domain, it is clear that the 46,000 is a drop in the ocean. My fellow councillor, Chris Carr, will give detailed financial report in his presentation later. I would like to finish by stating that after research, I've discovered that since 2010, nearly 1,000 swimming pools have closed, which highlights the tremendous pressures that local authorities have faced and are facing when having to accept a 40% cut in central government, Tory government funding. They must ensure that councils must ensure that they maintain the financial commitment expected of the statutory services. I fully understand that these statistics are no comfort for the residents of Kimberley, but I sincerely hope that the town will, in the not too distant future, boast a state-of-the-art leisure facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mee, would you like to have your say?
So thank you, Chair. Thanks for letting me speak, and thank you to everybody that's come. It is really, really great to see a lot of people here. It's a really good sign. Since elected in May, as Councillor Cooper said, the first thing that we did as the borough councillors was to go to the school and talk to them and ask what we could do and try and offer as much support as possible. We met with the head teacher, and as Councillor Carr will be going into detail, we secured that Sports England grant to support them. We were fed, the extent of the figures only became evident to us as time went on. The loss of the centre obviously is going to be a massive blow to the area, with the Hammer Medical Centre in particular coming and telling us that it's going to be really bad for health and well-being in the area, which we all absolutely agree. I understand how angry people are about this, especially when it's the only facility that's really serving Kimberley and other areas around Kimberley, such as Eastwood. But we have to look at the finances. 10 years of cuts, up to 40% of local authorities' budgets mean the investment the schools have requested. We haven't got the money. 444,000 on its own is a massive figure, which I think everybody in here appreciates, as well as unlimited repairs. That could be millions. That, we're a borough council. That is a lot of money. The facility is old. It's outdated. It should have been rebuilt over 25 years ago, and I think everybody in here absolutely agrees on that. However, if the pool goes, I know that the council will be doing what it can to offer alternative provision through its new leisure strategy, and residents of Kimberley and North Broxtowe will be able to have something to use. I absolutely support the council looking into these options, and I ask as ward members, which I know we will be allowed to, we are kept in the loop on this, and we can feed back to residents of the long-term strategy. We need to make sure we're putting pressure on central government and making sure our MP Darren Henry steps up to the mark and says something. I think it's very interesting that we're told that we didn't do anything. Where's Darren Henry been? The only thing I've seen Darren Henry has done ever on this is a petition that didn't go anywhere. So fundamentally, we need to be putting more pressure on him. I'd like to add as well, Councillor Owen suggested about that we could just suddenly chuck a load of money from the Luff onto the leisure centre. That is not the case. I wish we could. I really, really wish we could, but you can't. It's ring-fenced money. It's ring-fenced money from government rules, and they've told us how we can spend it. And what I will tell the public is that we have actually written to the government to be able to extend the funding to be able to fund this, hopefully, if they say yes to it, which, of course, with this government, it's probably not going to happen, but we can still hope and do all we can for that. I'd like to also add that Councilor Owen suggested that it was, why wasn't it in the Luff bid? Well, we've actually done some delving into the documents and past minutes, and it was actually a Conservative Kimberley Borough Councillor before us that actually said that the school were not interested in being involved in the Luff bid and dismissed it immediately. So I would like to know why that is the case if we did nothing. And I just reject it. The idea that we want to see this close, we don't. If we had a magic wand to say, let's save this, let's do it all we can, then we would, but we don't have the money. The government has cut us so much, and it's just so frustrating that instead of trying to work for a solution, they're just having a go at us. And we need to do something to put pressure on the MP, put pressure on the government, and get some funding to have a proper facility instead of just sort of having sticking plasters going on and on and on. We need an actual improvement to that. So I would like to say that, and it's gutting. It really is a horrible thing, and it's an awful thing. And I thank you for listening to what I've got to say. And as always, all of our emails are always open. You might see that we put stuff on the Facebook Spotted Kimberley chat as much as we can. And Facebook's always open, numbers, whatever. You can always contact us, and we'll always do the best thing that we can for you. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Radulovic?
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to respond to some of the points that have been raised. And first of all, can I just make it clear to the public, it wasn't the opposition that asked for this to be held in public, it was me. It was me that asked for this meeting to be held in public so people could see the figures and listen to the counter-arguments proposed. And first of all, can I respond to a question that was raised by Councillor Hills about asking for more time? We've asked for more time, and I'd like to quote you from this letter here directly. The school's governing body reviewed the situation following the Cabinet decision and agreed we are unable to continue the agreement beyond the 31st of March 2024. As a consequence, we are now issuing the attached break notice. So they've actually, Councillor Hills, served us with the break notice, let alone continue any further discussion. Chairman, there's a long checkered history of this, and it started, first of all, in 2020, when the Academy wanted to change the rules regarding what we call the JLAA, the Joint Loose Legal Agreement. And that they sent us a letter, actually, in 23rd of March 2020, just about 10 days before national lockdown. And we spent virtually the whole of lockdown discussing the future of Kimberley on many occasions, both myself with the Chief Executive, the Section 151 officer, with my deputy and other colleagues. And we were at that time looking into post-recovery COVID as well, and the importance of physical recreation and sport and opportunities. And we were part of a national lobby, and I was part of that lobby personally, who lobbied the Minister for leisure to be included as a statutory function of local authority and receive part of its grant aid funding. Ironically, the MP that was in charge of this was Sir Christopher Pincher, who was later, as you well know, disqualified from Parliament. So it never went anywhere, but we were told at that time that it was under serious and active consideration, which we supported. Across the whole political spectrum, all political parties supported that sports and recreation should be part of the council's core funding. No part of the council's grant whatsoever comes from central government grant, none. It's all generated internally or from other service providers. So, having done over 3 to 4 years, if there's anything you dispute, just tell me. We can. I'm open to challenge. So, Chairman, we've for the last 4 years sought a number of opportunities to work as positively as you can with the school, particularly on the post-COVID recovery. And we've always hit a brick wall with the Education Trust, and I don't blame the school. The school's changed headmasters in between. The previous headmaster and the current headmaster were completely different characters. The current one, I think we operate with on a much better relationship. But what is now being requested to cover the revenue cost of what is a private facility? It is no longer in the public domain. It was built with public money and opened by Arthur Briggs in 1972. I remember Arthur and myself very, very well. That resource was taken over by the school on academy status. Now, it shouldn't come as any surprise to you or to me, because Eastwood did it. Red Hill Academy took the leisure centre that we built as part of the Phoenix project for the people of Eastwood under their own management arrangements for the benefit of the school and the school finances. Chilwell Comprehensive School have been in extensive negotiations with us about removing the council facilities because they want to go to academy status. And so we've been working with them in a much more positive, proactive manner. Okay, I understand. So basically, Chair, there's a long and checkered history of schools across the country taking back, under academy status, public owned and public run services. Thanks for the smile. So what they're asking for, I've asked to be made public. They want £444,000, and that's to cover deficits. They want a management fee of £92,000 a year. Also, they requested an uncapped...
Your 5 minutes is up, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I've got 10 seconds.
No, I'm sorry, I need to move on to Councillor Carr. Councillor Chris Carr, would you like...
Just take over from there.
So as Councillor Cooper mentioned, this is the swimming pool that I learned to swim in, and therefore I know the importance the pool has on in the local community, and this was taken into consideration when we were making the decision. The amount of money that has been asked for this council to pay for what would result in a short-term deal to operate out of Kimberley Leisure Centre is too high. The £444,000 is combined with the expected repairs that the trust is wanting us to be liable to pay. An estimate on what these repairs could cost the council, you can find in a statement the school quoted a possible 2.4 million. This is on top of the licensing fees, as Councillor Dudovic mentioned, going up to £92,000 a year. So over the 3-year time span that this agreement would, they're wanting us to pay for the losses, it would come to a combined figure of about 3 million. As the report states on, I think it's page 8, the council did offer a £100,000 with this would have been a capped figure as an effort to extend the licence to 2025. This was rejected. A glaring issue with the request that we have is that it is uncapped, meaning that we would be facing an uncertain bill when councils across the country are struggling to meet the financial demands of the services that they provide. The council has tried to help with the increased running costs by applying for the Sports England fund, the swimming pool sport fund. We were successful in our bid and were set to receive £46,000. This is only 10% of what the expected losses the school have provided us. This fund does have a requirement that the pool remains open for 3 years, something that we can no longer ensure as the end of the current licence agreement. It is also worth noting that we have also been over the years investing in the facility with a combined fee a combined amount from 2014-15 up until today, coming to 616,000. Kimberley is not the only swimming pool to be closing in recent years. Very recently, there have been 4 other pools closing, 2 in Newark and 2 in West Yorkshire. And since 2010, I think I've got a figure here. Yeah, it's more than 1,000 pools have closed since 2010, with an expected 2,000 by 2030 at current rates. And even the CEO of Swim England saying pools face an increasingly difficult future.
Thank you. Mr. Dar, would you like to add anything?
Thank you for allowing me to speak, Chair. I've just got 3 points to make for the committee and other members and the public's consideration. The first one is we did spend a lot of time through September, October and November meeting with the school, and that was Liberty Leisure, the council and the school staff. So when we got to this position with the deficit figures, the position of the school is effectively take it or leave it. There is no further wriggle room for the school in terms of the deficits and their conditions around uncapped liability and uncapped utility price increase. So that is it. They're not willing to move from that. That's their position, and I respect that. The other point made this evening about how we operate in terms of our workforce process around redundancies, that was an important point for us to preserve our position once we knew the school had, in effect, incurred the break clause. So we had to make sure that process ran on to protect the council's interests. And thirdly, looking forward, we will look to constitute a cross-party group to look at opportunities for leisure facilities in the north. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the committee can now ask questions of the decision makers, ward members and officers in attendance. Councilor Stockwell.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd be interested to know of where the line actually falls between 2 of the statements we've heard tonight. We've heard 2 ward members say about how confident they are for what leisure facilities are coming forward, which makes me wonder what is going on in the background that we as committee members do not know about, which might be worthwhile as knowing considering we are dealing with this call-in decision tonight. And if they are so confident about it, where is all this money suddenly coming from that is not available for the leisure centre and the pool to begin with? And then following on from what Zulf said, is that you're setting up a cross-party committee to work out what's going to happen in the north. So either one of our most senior officers is wrong with what has happened or is happening, or the ward members responsible to the public for the area that is being affected so dramatically with the leisure centre closing is wrong. And it clearly would imply that they are misleading the public and their residents with such things, which I think is grossly unfair. So I would like to know what is actually happening. I would also question why, although obviously I know that this is a carryover from December, why further information such as the actual break clause letter wasn't included to members, because I've checked my emails and I've not seen it, and obviously it's not in the packs tonight. Surely this is yet more helpful information for people on this committee to be able to understand what is going on and what will be possible in the future or may not be possible in the future. So why are we here trying to make a decision for something when we clearly do not have all the facts being presented to us, and we're expected to okay the monies in terms of what will be related to redundancies? Now, of course, I know I can't say that, which again seems incredibly unfair. You know, we've told that this has been brought out into the public so they can understand the monies involved. Fair enough, fully agree with that. But then we've also been informed that redundancy money can't be given exactly, which I can understand to a degree, but at the same time, at the end of the day, this isn't our money, this isn't council money, this is taxpayers' money, and it is significant, as we all know and we all can see. So we're telling people, oh no, this is all terrible, we've got all this money that we can't suddenly afford, but then we've got to afford all the redundancies anyway, which sort of seems to be against any common sense, that we're losing a lot of money all the same. I also find it interesting, and maybe we can be explained to, is why in this chamber at full council we had to listen to a motion about public transit and public health and the effect that that has and that connection has and how wonderful it is, and every single member of the administration who voted in favour of that motion are now the exact same members who in cabinet voted against this and are the reason why we're here tonight to do the call-in. So there's just lots of information that seems to be going backwards and forwards that we don't have, and it also seems to be changing the chimes depending on what seems the most convenient to individual members at any one given moment and any one given meeting, which I think is greatly unfair to members of the public.
Thank you. Councillor Radulovic?
Yes, Madam Mayor, what my colleagues refer to is particularly with the Levelling Up Fund money, which you heard from earlier, and the figure that Councillor Owen's got is because he's aware of the fact that I wrote to the Secretary of State myself and signed it with the Chief Executive of this borough to Michael Gove, including the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, Minister for Levelling Up and our MPs, including Ben Bradley, Darren Henry and Lee Anderson, to ask for the government to extend the Kimberley Levelling Up Fund bid to include a capital sum. Although they didn't want to be part of the original bid, would they now allow us to spend up to the £20 million limit, bringing it just under at 2.4 million, which takes us to a figure of £19.94 million on the Levelling Up Fund. And so we've said, will you now use that money that you've got underspent from other areas to be spent up to the maximum allowance in Kimberley? And that is what my colleagues are referring to. Unfortunately, I only wrote to Michael Gove 2 weeks ago and I still haven't had an acknowledgement of the letter yet, alone a reply. But this is not unusual. But also, Chair, we are referring to the fact that I also took it upon myself to discuss the rateable value, for instance, of the school, and managed to work out the fact that the school were paying the wrong amount of rates, in my opinion. I questioned this on behalf, and they could, of course, claim a retail discount, which required a reduction of 75% in current change. So that actually reduces their rate bill by £10,000 a year. It's £9,519. So automatically, I hope that that could be part of a new discussion. Well, now take that into consideration. You know, I've just saved you £10,000 just under per year, plus I've got you some back pay at £12,329, and Chairman, business rates on Kimberley Leisure Centre will be only £3,000 instead of the £12,300 they were before. And I was hoping that that would be deducted as well from the fee. So my colleagues are quite correct. We are still trying everything we can to move East Midlands Educational Trust to a situation that is affordable and that we can justifiably set our finance against. Even at this late hour, we are still trying, and we'll continue to try. As I say, the letter to the Secretary of State, in particular, Chair, would give us the opportunity, I think, for a new negotiated joint use legal agreement. And my only wish is that they had been part of the original bid. That's a question for East Midlands Educational Trust and the school. But I want to make the final point. We are not closing Kimberley Pool. East Midlands Educational Trust and the school are closing Kimberley Pool. They are the ones who are closing it. And we are still, at this 11th hour and 59th minute, trying everything we can to try and provide a facility in the north of the borough. And that is the level of help and support we get. None. That's the level. So we are still trying, Chairman, and will continue to try right until the very end to ensure that there is swimming facilities in the north of Broxtowe based at the Kimberley Centre. There is no other side.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. As ever, it's always somebody else's fault, but I'll park that to one side. I think Councillor Radulovic has either misunderstood or misinterpreted what I more or less wasn't allowed to say earlier on because of time constraints. I didn't mention anything about putting in a bid for extra funding from government because, as you well recall, Councillor Radulovic, at that meeting of the Kimberley board, we were told that was confidential. And so I didn't breach that confidentiality. What I said was that the government have allocated £16.5 million to Kimberley as part of the Kimberley Levelling Up Fund. Now, it's clear that some of the projects that were included in that bid are not going to be delivered. I won't say more because we were told again it's confidential. They're not going to be delivered. For example, the £9.5 million worth of cycle lanes.
Discretion to speak. Could you make your point?
I'm making the point. I'm making the point. What I did say was that what should be done is that there should be an application to government to allow part of that £16.5 million that's already there and been granted to be used to cover the 2.4 million of backlog repairs.
Councillor
And that
Owen,
would make
what was the
life
question,
easier.
Please? Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Farthing.
Yeah, as I understand it, the cost of continuing with the school comes in at about 3 million, in addition with the pool over 3 years. In addition to the 616 we've invested up to currently, and that this all goes into the private asset that's owned by the school. So first, could I just check that that's correct? And secondly, could somebody give me an indication of what 3 million might purchase in terms of services elsewhere, to give us an idea of the quantity of money we're talking about? For Zulf, perhaps?
I'll do my best, I think, Chair. So, in terms of the numbers, just for clarification, the ask from the school is in 3 parts. It's £444,000 for 3 years deficits. It's another £90,000 on top for the annual fee, which gets you £530,000. And then on top of that, there's uncapped liability for repairs and maintenance. The backlog maintenance is there £2 million, so it's a large chunk of that. On top of that, there's a future increase in energy and gas, not yet quantified. So it's a really big bill, going into millions of pounds. And this, what was the second question about 3 million? I think.
What that could be spent on elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, £3 million. Again, that £3 million worth of revenue capital gives you a huge amount of opportunity to invest in the environment, housing, a whole range of different services across the council. So again, we haven't got that sort of money spare in the council's budget. Ultimately, it's a prioritisation process, and as other members have said, leisure is a discretionary service, and lots of councils have gone down an external route. We haven't done that. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, so could I just confirm then 3 million is over 3 years is a conservative figure because it's uncapped and the utilities and anything else could happen. It could be significantly more than 3 million.
Yes.
Any more questions?
There's no more questions.
Would the leader and the portfolio holder like to sum up?
Chair, thank you. In summing up, it's nobody comes into local government to cut services. Nobody from any political party. Changes in legislation over the years have made it virtually impossible to run local services. You know this yourself. As I said, when I first became leader in 1995 and through 1999, we had 4 leisure centres operating in Broxtowe, 2 with swimming pools, 2 dry facilities. We're now down to 1 publicly owned, and that's at Bramcote. That's the only one now. The rest have been taken over by academies as part of asset season, as I call it. And we all wanted to see the continuation, and we've tried and moved mountains. I made the demonstration at a point about asking for variations in the LUF fund, including underspends from other projects, to be allocated to this budget, to still try and, even at this very late hour, to try and keep this facility open and to provide the level of support that the school says it needs. It is an impossible task to allocate those resources with an uncapped capital liability on top, plus any potential rates of increase in things like fuel and a £440,000 revenue deficit. Who said the private sector could operate better than the public? So, Chair, in summing up, as I said, nobody wants to cut services, nobody wants to cut jobs, everybody wants to provide for their community. We all want better transport, we all want better health, we all want better access to care, but constant interfering in local government from central government and dictates, particularly on the academy status, has forced local authorities like ours down this route, and we're not unique. Since, you've heard the figures, since 2010 and the austerity, over 1,000 publicly accessible swim facilities have closed, and they expect within the next 5 to 10 years another 1,000 will close. That will mean virtually, if we continue along this austerity line, there will be virtually no publicly accessible swimming facilities in the whole of the country. That is the seriousness. This is austerity now coming to us all. As I said when I started this, Chair, we were dear enough to have this facility remain open. People talk fondly about how I used to swim there. I left school. This was open just after I left school. And so I've been there and played squash there many, many years. I have a very fondness for it. And so the situation that we're faced with, it's nothing more, in my opinion, than asset grabbing. And I am extremely concerned for the future of what will happen with the leisure in the whole of the north of the borough and on this site in particular. But my door still remains open. My internet still remains available should they want a Teams meeting. They have refused to discuss things with me in the past, the previous head did in particular. And so, I still reiterate our claim, we would endeavour till the absolute end to try and keep this facility in the public domain, accessible for public. But I want to finish on the statement, we are not closing Kimberley swimming pool. East Midlands Educational Trust are in closing it, and they've served us notice that they will terminate that contract in March 2024.
Thank you. Councillor Carr.
Thank you. Yeah, this is, unfortunately, this is not a one-off situation. Councils across the country are all facing similar dilemmas when it comes to providing leisure facilities. And it is such an important service that we should be able to provide, given the positive effects it has on public health. With pressures on the NHS at the moment, having something like like this as a preventative measure would do a lot of good to alleviate those pressures, and I probably reinforce the statements made by my colleagues that this does need to be a statutory requirement and funding does need to be made available from central government so councils like us can provide this as a service.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair, if there are no further questions, then we'll move on to the decision of the committee. So the committee, for members and for members of the public as well, the committee is able to make one of three decisions. The first would be no further action, which would mean the decision of the Cabinet will take place immediately. The second will be to refer the decision back to Cabinet for reconsideration, setting out the nature of the committee's concerns for reconsideration within 10 working days, taking into account the concerns of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee before making a final decision. Or the third one would be to refer the matter to full council for its views.
Madam Chair, I move option C is referred to.
I will second that. That's only fair.
Through you, Chair, what I was about to say is I'll look for proposers and seconders. So we have a proposer and seconder for option 3 to refer the matter to full council for its views. So we will take the vote, but if that matter falls, then we will come back to the two others that are available, which is obviously for the decision to take place immediately or to refer the decision back to Cabinet. So we have a proposer and seconder for option 3, which is Councillor Adam Stockwell and seconded by Councillor Jill Owen. Chair, would you like to take the vote?
All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions?
Thank you, Chair. So option 3 has fallen. So we will now look to options 1 and 2. If we could have a proposer.
I'll propose option A.
I'll second. Through you, Chair, just a second. Sorry, so that's Councillor Falvey, who has proposed the first option, which would be no further action. Councillor Jeremiah has seconded that. Through you, Chair.
All those in favour? All those against? And any abstentions?
Shame.
Through you, Chair, thank you very much. So that means that the option 1 is carried, which means that the decision will now take place immediately. The decision of Cabinet.
Could I just ask if everybody leave in an orderly manner, please? Thank you.